Goalies, welcome back to the DIY Goalie podcast. As always, with their hosts, Nathan Park and Connor Monday, who is riding the struggle bus hard today. So he feels like he got hit by a bus. So, let's be a little nicer than we usually are to Connor today, me included. But yeah, so you guys are probably going to hear me talk most of the episode today. But yeah, we've got kind of maybe two segments. We'll see how long the first one goes and how long Connor can last. But before we get started, I just wanted to say a big thanks to all of you guys listening. Again, we couldn't do this without you guys. I'm a bit of the nerd on the statistics, so I like to check the listenership every now and then, and steadily growing. So I appreciate all you guys, and just want to say if you can take some time to share the show, to subscribe, to leave a rating, to like, whatever, depends on the platform you're listening/watching on. It really makes it better for us to keep putting out content when we keep getting listeners. So thank you guys so much. It helps us get discovered. As always, you can check us out at thediygoalie.com, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, all of that good stuff. So to get started, what I wanted to do today for my segment that I brought is the stuff that people say about goaltending that kind of grinds our gears a little bit. Some of this stuff is coaches, some of this stuff is fans, some of this stuff is players that just don't really know a lot about goaltending, and some of it is just goalies in general. But most of it's not the goalie community. So I don't even know if this is the right audience to be doing this to, because you guys probably get it and it's probably not going to change anything. But if you guys have that coach or that defenseman or that fan in your life that has no idea what they're talking about yet likes to criticize goalies all the time about certain things, then you can send this episode to them. So
Stop talking is all
yeah.
we ask.
So if you don't know about goaltending, then leave the goalies alone.
Shut up.
Yeah. The one I'm going to start off with out of the gate is the old school mindset of goalies need to stand up more. Yes, there are instances where maybe goalies can hold their feet better. Yes, there are instances that goalies go into or stay in too long in the RVH, or go into it too early. Those are valid instances. However, it is not the 80s anymore. There's a reason why all the goalies in the NHL are butterfly goalies. It's playing the statistics. Yes, you could argue that goalies go down a little bit too much. However, if you are working with a 9-year-old, 10-year-old goalie and you are telling them to stand up all the time, that's that is not the right approach. So when you're teaching younger goalies, yes, there's a time and a place to stand up, but the problem is a lot of the kids cannot raise the puck or can barely raise the puck. And if you are trying to get your goalie to stand up all the time, they are going to get beat on the ice burners along the ice. So instead, let's teach them to track a puck and make decisions based off of the visual information that their brain is taking in. So they're tracking a puck. They're saying, oh, I'm tracking this. It's in the lower half of the net. I'm going to drop. Or I'm tracking it. It's in the upper half of the net. So I'm going to stand up. there is no black and white really when it comes to goaltending. There's a lot of gray area. So the whole stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, it's outdated. There's a reason why that doesn't happen anymore. And yeah, I get the sentiment behind it, but if that's what we're teaching the younger goalies, um, there's a time and a place for it, and they need to have the proper tools in their tool set to be able to make the proper decision for the situation they face, because there's so many variables in every situation in a game. So that's my first one of the segment. I don't know if you have anything to add over there.
Uh, just trying to stay alive, honestly. Um, yeah, no, you're absolutely right on that. I mean, there are, like, for us as goalie coaches and as goalie people, we know where we have to know how to evaluate the game, right? And so we look at a variety of factors. And so for something like that, where a goalie should have stayed down in his butterfly when the puck's freaking at the dot or above the circle or whatever, right? But um, or this goalie should be at the top of his crease when the puck's like, I don't know, 2 feet ahead, 2 feet in front of him or whatever, right? So it's just we know how to evaluate these situations. There is a method to the madness, and so it's just, if you stop and think about it for a second, it's what's the why as to why they're making the save the way that they're making the save, then it makes it easier to understand.
Yeah. So, um, for those of you constantly harping on stand up more, maybe, but most of the time you're kind of caught in the past. So,
There's there's a
yeah,
time and a place for
yeah.
that. Honestly,
But
there really is.
to
It's
me, the teaching is, so if
yeah.
you are like a head coach or an assistant coach or whatever, and you're working with younger kids and all you're saying is stand up more, we want to elaborate on that. So if you're teaching the younger generation, I guess even the older generation too, but we want to make sure that they're tracking and basing their decisions off of how they track. So that's what we should be teaching them, not stand up or not go down. Like I said, it's not black and white. A lot of it's situational, a lot of it's a lot of gray area. And to build off that, I'm going to segue into my next thing, which is kind of related to the last one, but I do hear a lot of coaches, when they're working with their goalies in practice, or even when they're on the bench, in a game, they're telling their goalies to come out more, which, again, sometimes yes, but you have to recognize that there is a downfall to coming out more. You don't get across the net as quickly because you have a longer distance to go. It's easier to lose your net, especially for the younger goalies. So, like, the one that irks me, and I don't really see it much anymore these days, but I know, like, when I played, it was fairly common, is you'd see a goalie in a game kind of in their crease or something like that while the puck's at the other end of the ice, and the coach is yelling for them to get out more, get out more. And what that does for the younger kids is they start to float around up in the white ice and they lose their net. The rush comes down, and then you're wondering why your goalie's covering only a third of the net on one side. Well, the reason is because you told them to come out farther and they lost their net and they don't know where their angle is. So that's another one, too, that, again, yes, to a certain extent, goalies should be coming out more, especially when they're younger and they're smaller and they don't cover as much net. But there's a sacrifice to that. There's a give and take. So the further you come out, the harder it is for lateral plays. Um, so again, have that conversation instead. Like, especially if you guys are running 3-on-0 drills and practices, which you probably are, your goalie's not going to want to come out very far because they're getting beat on the back door every time with the 17 backdoor passes that your practice comes with, your drill comes with. So naturally, they're going to want to suck back more. They're going to want to be back in their net more. So it's a give and take on that. Understand that yes, depth is good, but there is limitations to that. And also understand too that if your goalie is doing the proper things like making saves in front of their body, leaning their body, taking straight lines to the puck, tracking the puck in, that they can actually cover a lot more net than you may realize, as even if they're like younger and maybe not at the top of their crease. So I'd focus more on those things as opposed to just telling them to come out more. And us as goalie coaches, we talk about, when we talk about the three parts of positioning, so angle, squareness, and depth, depth is always our last priority. We want to get on angle and we want to get square first because those are more important. And then you can gain depth if you have the time. So don't just be like, come out more, come out more, come out more. And if they do need to come out more in a certain situation, explain to them why in that specific situation they need to come out more. Like, hey, it's a one-on-one. There's no lateral threat, take a step outside of your blue and play big, right? Fine, great, awesome. But the blanket statement of, you know, challenge more, come out more is not always the right thing, I guess.
By extension of that, it would be particularly with what I see in like smaller goalies, and I think I know you have a point on this, but I wanted to kind of elaborate with it is particularly when it comes to the RVH, and particularly when you have smaller goalies like in U9 U11s, um, pucks maybe a couple feet off the post, not exactly into the corner, and the goalies are down their RVH, and yeah, all that top net is going to be exposed. And the coaches are saying, you got to stay on your feet, you got to stay on your feet on the post, or you're too small, blah, 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 blah. Again, it's the same idea of, well, there's a method to the madness behind it, right? It's talking about box control, and that's where take a look at the amount of space between the four corners of the box, how much net is actually being taken up by that goalie. So even though, yeah, it may look like there's all that net up high, is there really though because of whatever the puck sees? Elaborating um, on your coming out too far point with that. By extension of that, and I had goalie coaches tell me this in the past, and I'm questioning it a little bit when it comes to talking about matching the speed of the shooter, particularly when it comes in on breakaways. I'm personally starting to have a little bit of doubts about that. I haven't fully fleshed out my reasoning behind it yet. But again, like you come out too far and that player is coming in fast, like you said, you lose that, you end up gaining that potential of losing your net and being way far off your angle and way far off your net than you need to be. I want to elaborate maybe just a little bit further and just talk about goalies on their goal line, right? Particularly when there's a mad scramble in front and um, pucks about where the hash marks area there, and the goalie's maybe 1 or 2 feet off the goal line, and coaches are saying like, "Oh, got to be right up to the top of your crease. Got to be right up to the top of your crease." Well, again, Nick, no, it's the same idea because again, number one, the goalie's trying to find the puck. Number two, it's just again talking about maximum net coverage.
Yeah. And that's a lot of it's going to be personal too, right? Like you take a guy like Henrik Lundqvist who lived on his goal line as opposed to, I don't know, a guy like UC Saros who is a little bit more, aggressive, right? But it's different playing styles that work for different goalies. So like when I played, I was that goalie that on a breakaway I'd, bust out way out and then match them back and have that, you know, explosive momentum to one side or the other. But to be fair, I got burned a lot on just straight shots when it came to breakaways. And some goalies, they like to kind of hold their ice a little bit better and not come out as far. So again, it's personal preference, and it's one of those things that it's it's not as cut and dry as you may think, where come out further, you cut off more net. And you are right on that, but sometimes the net coverage you gain isn't outweighing the lateral movement you lose. So it's a lot of goaltending is risk versus reward, right? Like, are you like, as goalies, we want to eliminate the D and the C grade goals. Um, and obviously we want to eliminate all goals, but it's not realistic. So we put ourselves in the best position to play the percentages and to eliminate the soft goals on a consistent basis. And that's kind of how we measure success. So there's a lot more gray area to the position than people may think. So moving on to the next one. Again, kind of related, but it's changing, but this is kind of a systemic ongoing thing for goaltending in general, of being obsessed with the goals against average and especially the save percentage.
Can I just like have a whole rant about this?
Do you
Because
have it in you?
like you like
You'll
maybe
rant and then sign
maybe we'll
off.
see. We'll see how many words
Yeah.
in a row I can get out
Do you
before
got
I
the
pass out.
defibrillator ready? Go
Insulin pen,
ahead.
I don't
I'll
know.
add my 2 cents after.
Oh man, where do I begin on this? Everybody knows that I've been ranting on about this. I know I talked about it last episode, and I know I was a big skeptic when we had that stats episode, not too however long ago. Can we stop determining a goalie's success by save percentage and goals against average? Can we stop freaking doing that? Oh my god, that drives me up a wall. It really does. Because the way I look at it when it comes to this, okay, is first off, goals against average, save percentage doesn't matter for kids playing U9, U11 hockey. Doesn't even really matter for kids playing in just minor league hockey in general. If you're getting into the competitive streams like single A, double A, triple A, junior A, junior B, whatever, then absolutely it starts to matter a little bit. But still, the point being is that there is so much more to a goalie's success or failure than just goals against average and save percentage, in my mind, at least. The way I look at it, particularly when I was coaching juniors, was I determined it as if they gave up a goal, well, how bad was the goal? What was the build up that led towards it? What was the sequence? What was the save execution? How do we make the save execution, and so on and so forth? From there, I look at technique. I look at the build up to the sequence. I look at the sequence itself. I look at the save execution. I look at all of the I look at all the little minor things, and then I make my judgment based on that, whether it's basically tap, pass, or fail, whether a goalie did well or not in the game. I add on to that by explaining more about the percentages of goals that goalies get scored on. Okay, we had that article, I think we posted in last episode, where it was some Russian goalie. I think it was some Russian goalie, some European goalie. I think he was worse on his glove side than he was on his blocker side. I think it was particularly the higher part of the net, to the top corner on his glove side compared to his blocker side there. I'm running out of words. It's save percentage and goals against average is a nice benchmark when you look at the grand scheme of things. It's nice for when, if you're recruiting players, or if you're just kind of want to get a little bit of a read on the goalie in terms of how he is throughout the season, but it does not make or break a goaltender's success. I hate it. I don't okay. I don't hate it. I like those stats just because they're fun to look at, but they do not determine the success or failure of a goaltender. Stuart Skinner here in Edmonton, man, Oilers fans, God, you guys are annoying. You guys really are. Like Stuart Skinner's not having a great year, and he's making me look bad after I was pumping his tires in the predictions episode. He's making me look bad, but Stuart Skinner, at the end of the day, he's still a great goalie. He just has some leakage in his game right now that is kind of costing the Oilers some bad goals. Bad defense also comes to play on top of it as well. So I I genuinely hate that regular hockey fans solely base a goalie's success or failure on a save percentage or on a goals against average. The silver lining to that being is that I'm not trying to say that a .773 save percentage and a 9.60 goals against average makes a goalie good or bad. It Those statistics in general kind of determine a goalie's level of competitiveness is what we'll call it. Obviously, the expectation for goalies who are playing in the show is about what, a 925 or higher,
No,
something
no,
like that.
it's
Whatever.
probably you're probably looking at
No,
910 or so. Um,
you think so?
yeah, like
Okay.
if you look at
Regardless,
averages, yeah,
anyways, over plus yeah, but it's
yeah,
plus 900 basically, right? And then the goals against average, I'm going to say sub two,
I'd say between two and a half
maybe
and
sub.
three.
Okay. So, but anyways, that's the point that I'm trying to make is that it's a good baseline on determining where a goalie's skill level is at, but it does not fully determine a goalie's success or failure. I've had great goalies on teams that, okay, maybe they don't have the greatest save percentages or the greatest goals against averages, but that's also a matter of sequences of whether the goalie failed in whatever sequence that he was playing in, or whether it was a total team collapse, which more than likely it's a team collapse, but I also have a little bit of a bias towards that.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing on it. There's a time and a place, but everybody in hockey is too obsessed with those two stats for goalies. And that's where the issue comes because um I like I fell victim to it when I played. You know, you have the shot clock, you make like a 3 save sequence, they only put 2 up, it gets you mad. You like I probably cared more than I should have when I played junior. I mean, the thought process behind it was, while I'm trying to, get NCAA looks and I want my stats to be accurate. But at the same token, if you're focusing on the shot clock when you're playing, that can take away from your focus on the game. I don't know how many times I see in goalie parent groups being, people asking, hey, what shot app, like shot counter apps, do you guys use? Hey, my U9 has this save percentage. Is that good? That seems low. And, it's like,
And that's what I'm saying. At those levels, it
yeah.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At those levels, it's development, development,
Well,
development. It does not
and not
freaking
only
matter.
that, but people also have unrealistic expectations when it comes to these stats, right? Like people see that the average in the NHL is a 905 or a 910 or whatever it is, somewhere around there. And they're like, my little U9 Johnny is rocking a 775. Well, man, or like, should we stop playing or whatever? Like, it's like, well, your kid's half the size and is not an elite level goalie at this
Yeah.
point. Like, don't worry about it. Like, there's just so much of an obsession with these two stats, and to the point, it doesn't tell the whole story. Like, um, there was so up in Grimshaw this past weekend, we did a presentation for coaches, and we were talking about how to make a goalie friendly environment. And when I was talking about pulling a goalie, and splitting time and stuff like that, one of the coaches mentioned a hard rule of switching after 5 goals against. And so I said, well, hold on. What if they have 5 goals against on 14 breakaways, right? Like, to me, that's one of those things that how can you, have a hard and fast rule where every situation is completely different, right? Like, and the other thing I said too is I'm like, well, what if it's a 4-4 game with 8 minutes left and your goalie gets scored on? Like, what are you doing at that point? Are you going to pull your goalie and put the cold one in? Like, I don't know. Anyways, there's like, nobody takes into account the situational aspect like we talked about before. It's not black and white with our position. It's so much gray area. And that's honestly like one of the segments I have on the list for eventually is I want to go into the analytics of goaltending. So Connor could probably go grab a drink or something while I'm doing that so he doesn't fall asleep. But one thing I really like is the goals saved above expected. And then when you take that one step further, because that's a cumulative stat, so you can have a better or worse stat based off of how much you play because it's cumulative. But if you take the goal save above expected per 60, so then it's an average per game basically, that starts to tell a much better comparison story. So for example, in the example I gave where you gave up 5 goals on 14 shots, or maybe to make the math easy, we'll say 5 goals on 15 shots. If the average is, say, 7 goals on 15 shots, so we're rocking an average in those breakaway situations of a little over 50%, and you're rocking 66%, then you're actually doing better in those situations than what historically your peers have done. So that's kind of what the goal saved above expected is it takes data from however many years of and this is in the NHL, so of NHL data, and basically puts situations on it and then compares a goalie how they play those situations compared to the historical averages in that situation. So it gives a much better story. So if they have a higher goal saved above expected, so if they're averaging, +2 goals saved above expected per 60, that means per game they're averaging 2 less goals. So they've saved 2 more goals than the average goalie historically would in that game. So to me, that tells a much better story when it comes to the stats because it actually compares like for like situations. So that's one thing I like. The other thing too is players are getting better, equipment's gotten better, systems have gotten better, and the shots have gotten better. So we are seeing goals go up and save percentages go down. And so the traditional benchmark is not the same anymore when it comes to save percentage and goals against average. So if that's what we're using to base the goalies on, like right now we're in an era where a 900 or a 905 is actually pretty average and a decent stat to put up for a save percentage. Whereas years past, like especially the mid 2010s, you're looking at like 915 being the average and maybe even like 920 because that was kind of an era of low scoring and the goalies were like the ball was in the goalies court as opposed to now it's kind of shifting more back towards the shooters. So we need to kind of get out of our own heads about what we feel about goals against average and save percentage. And yes, they're kind of useful, but we need to stop with the obsession on it. Let your goalies play. If you're a goalie, don't worry about the shots. Just do what you can. Honestly, you're probably better off having, a rink that doesn't even have shots on the scoreboard, because you're not even worried about it then, right? So don't get caught up in the save percentage, the goals against. It doesn't tell the full story. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave that.
Yeah, it's oh geez, it's a good benchmark, but it, again, like I said, it doesn't completely tell a goalie's success or failure. There's a couple of points that I want to make to this, and I think it'll help. In my fantasy league, actually, I have two goalies that I was knocking on, and Connor Hellebuck, who won his game today against the New York Rangers, 6-3
Shout
win,
out to the Jets. They're
stopped.
on fire.
Yeah, they're nuts right now. Um, Stopped 33 of 36 shots for a 917 save percentage. Jacob Markstrom won his game against the Florida Panthers today, 4-1. Stopped 34 of 35 shots for a 971 save percentage. Who's the better goalie? And today was more than likely Markstrom. Okay, but again, like, what were the goals that Connor Hellebuck gave up? What were the saves that Connor Hellebuck made during that game? Because one of these guys is going to get picked for an all-star candidate, right? Probably more than likely going to be Hellebuck, because that's all the Jets can produce. But that's the point that we're making here. Stuart Skinner right now, and I'm going to jinx it, 801 second period, made 12 of 12 saves right now, and the Oilers are leading 1-0 over the New York Islanders. You know what I mean? So there's to kind of end off this point. There's a great movie. It's a baseball movie. It's called Moneyball. Billy Bean and the Oakland A's, and in a way utilized stats to build probably one of the greatest baseball teams ever to not make the World Series. But again, he was taking, after losing all of these star players and losing kind of a lot of confidence between his scouting staff and management and his coaching staff and all else, drafted or signed these less than favorable players to the team because they got on base, basically, or whatever their strengths or their weakness, whatever their strengths were there. And I think just a lot of it was just the fact that these players do get on base, which end up generating runs, right? So that is a stat, or that is a way to look at stats to say, like, oh, hey, yeah, because we lost. I can't even remember who these guys' names were. But because we lost these big name players and we brought in these other guys that, yeah, okay, maybe aren't the best, or wouldn't be anybody's first, second, third pick, we're taking these guys because statistically they get on base. The probability of them getting on base is much higher compared to whatever our star players are. Something to think about there. It's a great movie. I quite enjoy it. I'm probably going to watch it after the end of this pod tonight to go into bed. But one of my
in your
favorite sports movies,
NyQuil-induced
honestly.
coma.
Hey, it's Neil Citron. Get it right.
Okay. Yeah, and that's just it. Like we kind of mentioned last podcast, I like the analytics when they tell a story, or I like the statistics when they tell a story, and seeing where goals go in on the goalie as well as the location on the ice, and situations that they're in. It can prove very useful. The next one I want to touch on, maybe a little bit personal, a little bit close to home for me.
Tell us how you really
the
feel.
The old mantra of the goalie needs to be the best skater on the team. Now, here's where I'm going with this. So before we chime in and before I get canceled, the problem with this statement to me is like it's apples to oranges. The skating that players need to be good at is not the same as the skating that goalies need to be good at. So, like, I don't know. I never really understood that statement. It's one that bugs me. because goalies need to be explosive, they need to be accurate, and you know, there's there's a big difference in the way that goalies control their edges. Like, it blows players' minds when I tell them that with our goalie skates, we cannot two-footed stop. Like, and they're always like, "What? What do you mean?" And it's, well, that's like, we pretty much only have one edge just based off of how our skates are designed. Um and so, like, to a certain extent, yes. I mean, pretty much every goalie out there could probably out backwards skate every player on their team if they're in the same situation. So that means they're not carrying 20 extra pounds of gear. But if you were to do like line rushes, stops and starts, crossovers, all that, a goalie's probably getting killed most of the time. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. There are goalies out there that are really good with that sort of stuff. But if you were to do, you know, a T push race against a player, a C cut race against a player, all of that stuff, if you were to do certain edge control drills, the goalie would win every time. And that's why I really like that whole sentence or saying or whatever you want to call it just bugs me, because, like, I don't know, it's too general. It's trying to compare apples to oranges, and I don't know, irks me. I'll leave it at that.
I'm going to play devil's advocate on this, and I'm going to say okay, I agree with you because yeah, it's a stupid sentence, but I've started to take it in a different way. I've started to explain it in a little bit of a different way. Kind of basically what you just said is that the fact that as goalies, we have a particular set of skills and we utilize those skills to the best of our ability.
I have a particular set
I was
of
trying to make a
skills and I
Taken
will
reference
find
in
you.
there,
Yeah.
but yeah. Yeah, I was trying to go that route, but then I didn't want to get that dark. So, um, we as goalies, obviously, we do a different set of skating patterns, like Nathan was saying. So we need to be the best goalie skater essentially on the ice. So I still say is that the goalie needs to be the best skater on the team, and that's kind of actually true because we have different edges that we work with, right, compared to the players, because we play an east-west game whereas the players play a north-south game, right? So that is kind of where my mind takes it, and that's actually why I like that sentence, because that's the way that my mind goes when it comes to it. More than likely, when you and I played a very long time ago, it was just the general sentence is that just the goalie needs to be the hardest skater, be the fastest skater, be the best skater on the team, and that's if you are doing line rushes, forwards, backwards, and all that. But we don't play a forwards
Yeah.
backwards game nowadays. We play an east west game, right? So that's that's where I take it, and that's actually why I like that sentence. And believe it or not, I've used it at True North sentence. So
Uh,
sorry, not sorry.
well, this is the Ralph Kruger Skype session of getting let go from True North goaltending. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I was last in literally every single skating drill I did in my life. But to me, it's I don't know. It irks me because it's two completely different things. And I will say I am by no means saying that skating is not important, because we do 50-50 skating and puck drills pretty much anytime we're on the ice with True North goaltending. So we value skating a lot. I just don't like the comparison, in my opinion. And I think that that sentence is trying to compare what we do with what players do. And we do two completely different things. So,
There is no comparison between a goalie and a player. There absolutely isn't whatsoever. It's two different worlds.
yeah.
But yeah, again, like I said, I've already made that sentence. Um, if I may be allowed, okay, I don't think we're gonna get to the other segment
Yeah,
today, and
that's fine.
I think that's fine. Um, I'm just kind of scrolling through the goalie parents Facebook group here, and there was a couple of posts that I saw that I think is kind of um, interesting. So the post that I'm looking at right here is from a member that said that their coach has told their
Uh
goalies that they're not allowed to stretch while they're on the ice because this person's goalie and their partner usually take turns in the net and then stretching with their equipment on because he's wasting time, is what this coach said. So, what do you expect him to do? This is a really dumb take right here because you don't want them to stretch while on the ice while in their equipment because they're wasting time. What are you jumping right into practice right away here? You're not even giving the kids a chance to warm up. Going to do the oh, what's it? It's Team Canada drill. I forgot what it's called.
I don't know.
I
I
completely
never
forgot what it's
played
called.
for
But
Team
anyways,
Canada, so
yeah, I know you didn't. Neither did I. But there's a drill and it's called like the Team Canada drill or whatever. And there's just a lot of chaos happening in that drill basically. So there was that one, and I thought like what a stupid thing to say. Really, what a dumb thing to say because like obviously these kids need to stretch. Goalies have to be the most flexible have to be the most flexible people on the ice. I'm not. I'm not. Nathan, I know you're not.
hey,
But
just because the truth
hey,
hurts
you
doesn't
have to
mean
be
you have
nice
to
to
say.
me. Hey, just because you have to be nicer to me today doesn't mean that I have to be nicer to you. Um, so yeah, so I saw that one, and then there was another one, kind of a few posts up where like this, where another head coach just absolutely refuses to provide any amount of time allocated towards goalie development. Not even 5 minutes, not even 10 minutes, nothing. It's just nope, just goalies are there, shooter tutors. And if that's your mindset as a coach, sorry, man, you're in the wrong sport. You really are.
Yeah,
You really are. Because again, in the episode that I did, is that head coaches' jobs are to develop the entire team. If you want to have specific development for players, then you need to allocate those resources effectively.
yeah, and
Simple as that. So just I don't know where, I don't know how a position as important as goaltending, probably a hot take, but the most important position on the team gets the least amount of attention, least amount of development from minor hockey organizations or just from hockey coaches in general. It's
yeah.
astounding. It's 2024. Let's get it
Well, there's
together.
always the comparison between goaltending, quarterbacks, and pitchers. And out of the three, because there are similarities between the three in terms of their role related to their team sport. And between the three, how much development and focus is there on a quarterback? How much development and focus is there on a pitcher? And then how much development and focus is there on a goaltender? And, you know, you look at that list, which one's the odd man out? Spoiler alert, it's the goalies, right? Like that's the thing. And I feel like that's something that some of the European countries have really nailed on the head, is just how much they, you know, provide for their goalies, how much focus they have for their goalies and whatever. It's yeah, I don't know. It's just asinine to me that you know, you have a position that can steal you a game that really the other, positions in the sport can't to the same extent. And that position can also very much lose you the game. And yet there's no real desire, if you put a general blanket statement out there, there's no real desire to put in the work and the focus towards that position. And yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about that the last couple episodes with the whole Hockey Canada thing and the systemic issues with goaltending and whatever. But yeah, like I don't know. It's getting better, but we need more buy-in from the people that don't know anything about goaltending to at least try and learn some stuff about goaltending. And that's kind of why this segment, some of this stuff, it's like, you know, what are we doing? Like it's kind of shedding some light on some of that stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It's a problem. It is what it is. We work towards it. I appreciate the coaches that come out to our sessions when we talk to the head and assistant coaches. I very much appreciate that. And that's why we try and make it accessible to the coaches as best as we can, because that's the best way to change things for these goalies, is to get the people that are in the position to make the biggest difference knowledgeable on the position. So that's kind of that. You got anything more to add, or can I keep going on my rant, my list?
No, I do have one more topic that I wanted to bring up, but I'll let you continue if you
Well,
have
I
anything else.
wonder if it's going to be this one because we both talked about it beforehand, but the goalie sizing issue. Uh,
No,
okay.
not that one. Not that
So
one.
that's another one that irks me as a goalie who's 5'10" and played in the era of bigger is better. Um, a goalie does not need to be 6'5" to be successful. Um, I've talked about it lots on this podcast. If you are playing a certain way, your hands are out in front, your shoulders are forward, you're coming towards the puck, your body's leaning, you're making saves in front, you're tracking properly, you can cover the net very easily. It is only 4 feet high, it is only 6 feet wide. You don't like it's an angles game. If you can cut off the angles properly, you're in a good spot. The other thing I like too is a lot of times the smaller goalies, because they need to be, they're usually quick, they're usually explosive, they usually move very well east to west. They're athletic, and you know, they if they play the right way, they can be just as effective, if not more. Because the nice thing, the advantage I will say the smaller goalies have is it's a lot easier to be nice and tight. It's a lot easier to be nice and compact. You know, not really like it used to bug me growing up, but I do get it now. Like hearing the quote unquote struggles of big goalies. I used to hate hearing it, but I do get it. It takes longer to drop to the ice. There's a little bit more holes. The kind of 12 inches above the pad is kind of hard to get to. I get that. So that's why to me, like, we need to stop overlooking good goalies just because of their size. They are just as capable of being successful as their bigger counterparts. And again, when you're 6'6" and the net's only 4 feet, you've got 2'6" that's doing really nothing when you're standing there. I know in the butterfly it's a different story, but even still, that's kind of my rant on that one.
Yeah, we could do a whole episode on this. Yeah. Um, I genuinely don't know where this notion comes from, and I think it's just the ideology or the idea of
More net
um,
coverage. Yeah.
more net coverage. Right, the bigger you are, more net coverage. Okay, so does that mean that like fatter goalies also have a chance
Did
of
did you
being
ever
better too?
see
Like, no,
Yeah,
they
did you ever see
don't.
that Sports Science episode? I don't know if you ever watched like Sports Science back in the
Yes,
day,
I
and
did.
they
Okay,
had this
yeah, actually,
sumo
that's
wrestler
a
goalie that did not
yeah.
work.
No, it didn't whatsoever. I mean, like, I suppose if you're a heavier set fellow and you know how to play the position, then I suppose yeah. But otherwise, like, no, if you stick a bigger person in there in the net, yeah, it's more than likely not going to
Yeah.
work. Realistically, I mean, don't get caught up with that walrus commercial. You
Yeah,
know that
yeah,
one?
I know what you're talking about. Do you remember the
um,
McDonald's like mini goalie commercial? They had like the
no.
mini like novelty sticks or whatever, the novelty goalie sticks. So
Oh,
they
okay.
had a commercial with like a goalie that was like 6 inches tall and he was stoning everyone.
My a bit of an off-topic topic. My old assistant coach, when I played second year bantam, actually gave me a mini stick to use for the practice because he was like, "Oh, since you're down your butterfly all the time, you don't need this big ass stick." So he
Uh,
literally gave me a mini stick for practice. I was like, "Okay,
Connor,
that's
stand
weird."
up more.
All
Anyways,
right, gain your ice more. Um, no, but I look at guys like Devin Dubnik being one. I was never a Devin Dubnik fan. Don't think I will ever really be a Devin Dubnik fan. That's also because he took the starting job away from Jeff Delorier. But um, Doobie, in his own right, was a good goalie, but everybody thought that he was going to be, I don't know, top stuff because he's like what
yeah,
6'6", something like that, 6'6", 6'7". It's like, but he gave up a lot of soft or a lot of really easy goals, right? So the notion of bigger is better isn't necessarily the case. Size doesn't matter. UC Soros, on the other hand, having a little bit of a struggle this season. I mean, just the entire Nashville Predators team is in general, but UC Soros like really broke boundaries because of his size and because he is a Vesna. I don't want to say winning because I
caliber.
don't think he actually won one yet. Vesna caliber, thank you. Goaltender, right? So it's there's different ebbs and bounds when it comes to the size, and what I mean really it there's a certain level of athleticism that also does come with it.
Yeah. Well, and that's like, I don't know, would you pick Miko Koskinen or UC Saros for your team, right? Like, I mean, it's one of those things that yeah, you can be good at 6'7". Shout out to Stellars and what he's doing. I mean, I hate cheering for the guy because he's on the Leafs, but I like him. But yeah, I mean, you can be successful at 6'7". You can be successful at 5'11", right? Like it's just a matter of how you play. You can also be terrible at 6'7", and you can be terrible at 5'10". It's it it it's just it bothers me. It bothers me that people put so much merit into a goalie's size. I mean, I know it's getting better. It's shifting away from that. Um, just because, I think people are starting to realize that. But as a goalie who grew up in the era of blocking goaltenders who were 6'6", and that was what everybody looked for, as a 5'10" goalie who was athletic and didn't play that way, it bugged me. But it is what it is. I got two more, but I'm going to wrap them up into one, and then we can let you go watch Moneyball and curl up around your Kleenex box. Uh, for those of
I hate you so
shout out Brad
much.
McDonald. uh, for those of you watching on YouTube, I'm sure you could see, but I think every time I'm talking, Connor's sneezing about 7 times a minute. So um,
Yeah, it's not a fun time over here. I still have one other point that I want to get
okay.
to,
Well,
but
shout out to you for sticking it out.
I'm trying to
Um,
last. Yeah, thank
yeah.
you.
So last thing on my stuff that people say about goaltending, and it's kind of a two-piece thing. I mean, they are different, but they are similar. But it's the negative connotations around goaltending, the stigma around goaltending. So A, goalies are weird. B, goalies are lazy. And I do play on the lazy one. I tell my goalies when I work with them, a lot of times they say, everybody calls us goalies lazy, so let's play lazy. Just because I want them to be efficient and only do the least amount that they need to get the job done. So that's kind of my joke about it. But it makes me so happy when players get to eat humble pie and they try goaltending for a practice or a game or something like that, and they come off and they're like, that sucked, that was so hard, and whatever, right? Because goaltending is simple. Your job is to stop the puck, but by no means is it easy. There's so many variables, as we've talked about a lot this episode. It's very not black and white. There's a lot of gray area. A lot of things go into that. And people don't realize it because when you look at it from the 10,000-foot view and you're a fan, you're an armchair GM at home or whatever the case is, it looks simple. The guy's just standing there. Rush comes in, shots there. He'd barely moved, made the save, whatever. And it's very easy to criticize goaltending. Like I remember one playoffs, there was a guy that took a step inside the blue line and unloaded a clapper, and should have been an easy save for me, and it was going to be. And on the way, it just clipped my defenseman's stick and just rose about 2 feet and went top corner. And it looked bad because the guy was way out of the zone, or like way away from the net. And but from the stands, nobody saw that clipped that stick and changed directions, and my path, I couldn't change it in time to make that save, right? So people don't realize how much goes into it. The other thing is with the weird comment, um I get it to an extent. Goalies have interesting personalities, but the thing is a lot of that stems from the way the position is systematically. Like, it's an isolating position. Like, unfortunately, we kind of get left on our own island to do our own thing, and we have to deal with it. And we have all the pressure when it comes to, if you make a mistake, everybody knows because it's in the net. If, a forward makes a mistake, there's probably a lot of people that don't know, right? So it's one of those things that, and I know Hutch has talked about this lots on the In Goal Magazine podcast about ending the stigma or getting away from the stigma. He talked about it when he came on our podcast. Is that we need to kind of stop running with that mantra of, the goalies are weird. Like, it's one of those things that I never understood why everyone was like, oh, you guys are so like crazy to be able to stand in front of a shot. And I'm just like, well, yeah, but I have all the equipment so that when that puck hits me, it doesn't hurt. You know who's the crazy one is the defenseman standing in front of me who takes a shot to his ankle and he can't walk for 3 days because he doesn't have anything protecting him from that puck. So for me, I'm just like, well, in that instance, who's the crazy one? You know what I mean? But it's one of those things that, you know, yeah, goalies can be a little eccentric, but I've seen players doing weird stuff too. So it's, you know, I if I had $1 for every time I heard oh, for a goalie, you're not that weird, not just to me, but like to just people in general, it's like, well, at the end of the day, we're just regular people too. Like, you know what I mean? So, anyways, that's kind of the last that I have for the stuff people say about goaltending and stuff that really grinds my gears. But I don't know if you have anything to add about those two now that you got everything out of your system over there.
It's still coming. Um, yeah. I think you kind of summed it up well. Is that we kind of need to start getting rid of the stigma of goalies are weird. Um, it was like that a very 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 long time ago, but that's also because the position was still relatively young, right? Like there was no technicality in how the guys like Billy Smith and Grant Fuhr and insert other goalie here, Ron Hextall played, right? So you kind of were in a sense crazy in terms of in terms of um,
Yeah,
playing the
well, and
position,
guys like
right?
Breeze Galloff don't help, but you know,
No, they don't, but
love,
still.
love the guy's
Um,
takes, but man, oh man.
Why you have to be mad?
It's just game.
It's only it's just game.
Yeah.
Bears. I'm afraid of bears. Um, man, that guy had some
Yeah.
killer quotes. Um, but still, like nowadays, like I think just getting rid of that stigma, getting rid of the thought of goalies being weird or goalies are lazy or or whatever. It's just it's not like that anymore, and so we need to start working away from that.
What we need to do is we need to mandate every like U13 team to have every player try goalie once in their practice. Just because when everyone does it at U7, nobody can shoot the puck and nobody can do anything, anyways. But if you throw all the U13 kids in net for a practice, one of their own team practices, so they can see the stuff that goalies have to deal with, I think there would be a lot more respect for the position. So that's my call to you coaches out there and to you organizations out there is start mandating a U13 practice for every player in that.
God, could you
Oh
imagine?
man. I mean, I know like growing up, like we'd have some year-end practices where like a couple guys would go in net while the goalies went out for the practice, just the fun like last practice or two after all the games are done. But um I feel like you never got the kids who didn't appreciate goaltending going in because they'd never be the ones to volunteer. It's always the ones that, appreciated goalies that would be like, oh, yeah, I'll go in for a practice. And so, I feel like if we can give some of those players a little bit of a taste of what it's like, then, we'd have a lot more respect for, for goaltending in the hockey community.
Yeah, yeah.
You got one more point for us, or are we calling her quits?
Oh, we're gonna
Yeah,
call her.
we'll
I can't
save
do
it
this
for
anymore.
another
So
day. All right, so
sure.
we will let Connor sign off. We will let him go have a nice good night's sleep, and hopefully you feel better. Again, guys, thanks for tuning in.
For those watching over on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. It's much appreciated. Make sure you guys give us a like, subscribe, share all over your social media platforms. If you are listening to us on the podcast side of things, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, make sure you guys give us a follow. If you haven't already, share it with your friends. Word of mouth always is great. We have listeners from all over the world. I think Australia is still the one that like really throws me off guard. That's so that's so
Yeah,
bizarre to
although
me.
I will say
But anyways,
Czechia is making quite a run. We have recently had quite the run of streams from Czechia. So shout out to you guys in Czechia.
well, there we go. Michael Neuwirth on the pod?
Yeah,
Question mark.
maybe. Peter Mrazek.
Anyways, yeah, Mrazek. Oh, that'd be. Ugh. What else is there? Yeah, make sure if you make sure you guys go over to the DIYgoalie.com. We do have some good stuff on over there. I don't know if Nathan wants me to help contribute with articles over there or anything. I don't know how well I do at it, but we can try. We do have a lot of we do have a lot of good stuff over there. Actually, I think doing video breakdowns or just kind of breakdown stuff similar to pro reads would be interesting. Um, we also do have our shop over there as well. So if you guys want to pick up some goalie themed merch, the holidays are starting to come. I know we're like well over a month away, but never a bad idea to get on top
If
of
you're
that stuff.
looking for
Now we got a
something for
great
your
sets.
goalie coach, we do have a shirt or sweater that says "I help save for the future" with uh, with a
I
goalie
like
on it.
that.
So
I like that. I'm gonna have to find that one later. That's awesome. But yeah, no, we do have a lot of good stuff over there. My favorite one that I saw last time that I did this
my
was
crease, my rules.
oh I think it was
Yeah,
yeah, my increase my rules. I
my
think
my
that
favorite
one got
one
a good
is
chuckle
the
out of
"I
me.
don't talk to myself." My posts are listening.
My
That's
posts
a
are
good one.
listening. Yeah,
I
that's
also
a good
like
one.
the
Oh,
"Don't make me use
there's
my
the goalie
goalie
coach one.
dad" or my goalie mom voice.
Yeah. I rob people for a living
Yeah,
is another good one there. Yeah, no, we have some good ones here. I like the certified beer league beauty one. That's
yeah.
kind of cool.
So
Anyways, so yeah,
DIYgoalie.com/shop, you can check out all that we have.
yes, yeah, that's it's a good stop there. If you are in the Edmonton area or if you are traveling to the Edmonton area, make sure you guys go visit truenorthgoaltending.com if you guys want to do a one-on-one session with us. There we go. It's great. Great time to be a True Norther. Facility sessions are well underway. We had our grand opening a few weeks ago, which was a great turnout. So we are very, very thankful for those who did turn out. And yeah, if you guys are traveling for tournaments or whatever, and you guys will be in the Edmonton area, so that encompasses also Sherwood Park, Leduc, Spruce Grove, Beaumont, St. Albert, all those areas. Please feel free to reach out to us at goalies at truenorthgoaltending.com, or you can book a session through the truenorthgoaltending.com website. Beyond that, thank you very much for listening. Social media, I completely forgot about that. You can follow us over on Instagram for the True North goaltending side of things. It's at YEG Goalie Coach. I don't think we have a DIY one, do
for
we?
Instagram, yeah, it's the
No,
DIY goalie.
Yeah, it's a DIY goalie.
The nice thing with
right,
the DIY goalie is literally every platform that we're on is the DIY goalie. That's the handle. That's the username. Yeah. True North Goaltending was taken on Instagram from somebody who has 0 posts, 0 followers, and is following 0 people, and I was very mad about it. So I went with the YEG Goalie Coach because YEG Goalie Coach.
What else do we got? We also have TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X.
Yeah. YouTube.
All that fun stuff. YouTube. All that fun stuff. Can follow me personally at Monday GC. And
don't follow me. Yeah, I don't post anything on personal Facebook or Instagram.
Nathan's just not cool enough. All right. Thanks, guys, for watching. Thanks, guys, for listening. Much appreciated. And that'll be it from me and Nathan. Make some saves. We'll see you guys next time.